What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome to another Star Wars movie discussion, where today I am going to be chatting with you guys about my favorite Star Wars movie, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. But I didn't come alone. Please welcome back to the channel, Caleb, also known as Caleb's Cave of Collectibles.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for shouting out Caleb's Cave of Collectibles, where you can see many different videos covering Star Wars what-ifs, action figures, and various other things. My channel is just starting out, so there's not a whole lot there right now, but we're working towards it.
Let's get into talking about what we came here to talk about, and that is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which is, I believe, your favorite Star Wars movie as well.
That's also my favorite Star Wars movie. It tops everything, between all the duels and the emotion and, Anakin's fall to Vader. It tops every other Star Wars film story for sure.
It's so weird how that stuff works. It's like just one movie just like changes your life. The opening to this movie, the Battle of Coruscant. First of all, I love a good space battle. And what's cool about this one in particular is if you watch the Clone Wars micro series, it really does feel like you could really treat that and Revenge of the Sith as like a 3-hour movie. I watched the micro series before Revenge of the Sith. So I was big into, oh my gosh, Shaak Ti protecting the Chancellor, Obi-Wan and Anakin off doing this, crazy mission where Anakin has all these weird force visions in a cave. And then you see this space battle. So then when I first watched Revenge of the Sith, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I know what we're doing right now. I know what this is about.
Because the end of Clone Wars micro series, for those that haven't seen it, bookends directly into Revenge of the Sith. Anakin and Obi-Wan get a message from the Chancellor, get a message from Mace Windu about the Chancellor, and then that's what leads them directly into the Battle of Coruscant. They're called away on their Venator, and they start right then and there. And we get the scene where Obi-Wan's having so much trouble with the buzz droids, and Anakin's like, move to the left so I can get a clear shot. And he almost gets them both killed.
I think what's really interesting about Revenge of the Sith is that it's to the point now where we've tied it into so many different things, and not just the micro series, but the animated series of Clone Wars as well, where you have the Siege of Mandalore, and throughout that you're hearing about all these events from Revenge of the Sith. If you watch the first episode of Bad Batch, there's a lot of reference to Revenge of the Sith as well. So it really shows you how pivotal of a moment Revenge of the Sith is in the Star Wars timeline. Even if you're not, let's just say for whatever reason, you're not even a fan of this movie, to understand how big of a deal we're going through right now. Where we start in this movie and where we end it are two completely different places.
Yeah, it's more of a crazy comparison than night and day. It's that different.
We get to the scene with the elevator, and they're like, R2, we need to be going up, not down. Because R2 doesn't, or R2 sends the elevator down after, first the elevator stops, then he sends it down, then he sends it up, and then he lights the super battle droids on fire. But speaking of super battle droids, we get two more of them accompanying the Sith Lord Count Dooku as he makes his way into the area of the ship where the Chancellor is being held. I'm surprised both him and Grievous weren't there to take on the Jedi, but at the same time, I guess if this was all part of Palpatine's plan to get Dooku in there and then to eventually get him killed, okay, I guess that would make sense. But then you get where Anakin takes on Dooku by himself, because Dooku takes Obi-Wan out of the picture, and that's where Dooku's like, well, wait, what's going on here? Why are you telling him to kill me, Master? What's going on here? And Anakin, like a good Jedi, is like, well, no, I shouldn't kill him. It's not the Jedi way. And all it took was the, two magic words from Palpatine.
Do it.
And he kills him.
That duel is great, though. I mean, it really shows Anakin's progression over the course of the war. Because, I mean, if you look at Attack of the Clones, he got wrecked by Dooku. I mean, he was holding his own for a little bit, but it was never going to be a fight that Anakin won. But by the time we swing around to Revenge of the Sith, and we kind of joke about my powers have doubled since the last time we met Count.
Yes.
Because with all his duels in TCW, It's like, well, we just dueled last week. How did you get doubly more powerful? The duel itself also really shows the innate superiority of Anakin's Form 5, the Gemso, over Dooku's Makashi. And, I mean, obviously, form isn't going to beat form if one is more skilled than the other.
Yeah.
But once Anakin got to the point where he could match Dooku's skill, the form was going to beat him every time. It's just a matter of, Anakin had to build up his strength and skill in his form in order to be able to do it.
Like, there's an alternate timeline out there where
Jedi didn't discover ascension cables.
Well, that or just like Anakin forgot his or something. Like he was in a rush to get out of his apartment building to go rescue the Chancellor. And, there's an alternate timeline where Anakin forgets it and is like, oh, shoot, I don't have it. Written, directed by George Lucas. That's how the movie ends. No chosen one, no nothing. So then we get where General Grievous, he tells his droids to activate the Ray shields. Shout out to the person that made a meme of Ray on the picture for the Ray shields. I always get a good kick out of that as well. Anakin's like, no, don't worry, Master. I say we focus on patience right now. R2 will be along in a few moments, and then he'll
release the Ray shields.
He'll release the Ray shields. Everything's gonna go fine. R2 comes flying into the room. He hits his head.
himself in the wall.
Yeah, for whatever reason. Yeah, it's weird. But then in come two destroyer droids. Is that to imply that the destroyer droids just like rolled into R2 and it like, if you threw a bowling ball at a pin and the pin went flying across the stage, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden a bunch of super battle droids walk in and Obi-Wan's like, do you have a plan B?
Were there any budget droidicas in that shot?
There were. Both droidicas in that shot were budgeted.
I think there was at least one shielded one.
Yes. Oh, was there? Okay, yes. Maybe there was. But
the inside joke that we have
yes.
is any droidica we see that doesn't have a shield or doesn't bring their shield up is a budget droidica because the Seppies didn't want to pay extra for the shields.
They had to budget for the war because, for those who know, Dooku wasn't rich enough. He was very greedy, so he needed to have more money. So he's like, well, what do we do to save ourselves on costs here? I know what we'll do. We'll have destroyers with no shields. As long as they're at a distance, they can still fire with their twin repeating blasters, and it'll be fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So then we get to the scene where they are brought onto the bridge. And this scene is actually very crucial because this one scene right here is the main reason why we can't have Anakin and Grievous meet during the Clone Wars. He says this line, I was expecting someone with your reputation to be a little older. Was this the first time, or I mean, I guess obviously it's the first time, but have we ever seen a Magna Guard, besides this scene, walking around still fighting without its head?
This was the first time historically that it happened.
Okay.
On screen, at least. Because I think it happened in TCW, but obviously that came after, in terms of our time.
He was dedicated, though, that one. So I will give him credit. Even when Obi-Wan strikes him the second time, Obi-Wan has to turn around and make sure that this dude dies, because he's still, like, trying to reach for him as he's fallen. That droid, programmed, dedicated, was that one.
Probably the most dedicated CIS droid.
Of the entire army was that one Magna Guard, just protecting Grievous. And Grievous is like, all right, well, yeah, no, if that guy's down, now I'm really screwed. All right, you don't bother with the Jedi, even though he's about to kill you all. Just keep the ship in orbit for me so I can get out of here. And he gets surrounded by Obi-Wan and Anakin. And I'm like, ooh, potential fight going down here. But no, Grievous, like the coward he is, Just escapes, runs away. But this kind of sets up for General Grievous to sort of be like our main villain for the first half of this movie.
Coming out of Micro Series, I mean, Grievous took on 7 Jedi at
for
once,
real.
and he beat them all. And that's not even just 7 randos. Like,
no, one of them was
Ki-Adi Mundi. One of them was Shakti. That's 2 council masters that he beat.
Ayla Secura is a fairly
master
decent
point,
Jedi.
too.
Yeah. And then Obi-Wan and Anakin have to land this cruiser because it's going down at this point. This thing's taken enough damage. It's going to crash down onto Coruscant. Half of the ship completely falls off. That's how, rough a state we're in.
We lost something.
Not to worry, we are still flying half a ship. I'm like, I don't know if you're necessarily flying Obi-Wan. It's more like you're just, as Woody would say, falling with style. Yes. So then they eventually crash the ship. And if there was any more of a perfect way, if you wanted to take the entire Battle of Coruscant into one movie, like if you did the micro series and leading up into this final bit here, the more perfect way that you could have ended this is Obi-Wan saying, Another
happy landing.
Another happy landing. Right there. You could have said that and then written and directed by George Lucas. End of movie. Right there. We're done. I love that line.
Yeah, that's a great one.
The Millennium Falcon makes an appearance.
It does.
Which is
Or at
crazy.
least some version of a Corellian YT model freighter that looks very similar to the Falcon.
Mace tells Palpatine that the Jedi Council is going to make finding Grievous their highest priority because they believe that the Senate will continue to vote to continue the war as long as Grievous is alive. So,
Of course they will, because Palpatine's gonna make them.
of course, exactly, yeah. Okay, so how long has this dude been in office at this point? Like 15 years now?
13 years.
13 years? Okay, yeah. I don't know how terms for Chancellor work in Star Wars, but I would assume that there's like a 4 or 5 year term or something, and then you could maybe get reelected. I know they say later on in the movie that Palpatine has managed to stay in office long after his term has expired, but the Senate demanded that he stay in the position longer.
I think what it really came down to with Palpatine's terms is, with Jar Jar giving him all the emergency powers during the war, he was able to just kind of make more executive orders, similar to how like our presidents do in real life. They're able to.
Sure. The Senate was also expected to vote even more powers to the Chancellor, which I believe that would give him the ability to make himself emperor, would be my guess. That was the whole idea behind that. As far as Anakin goes, he gets to be with his wife again, and we learn a very crucial thing that's about to happen, and that's that Padme is pregnant. She's about to have children.
It calls into question when that happened, though, because Anakin was gone on the Outer Rim sieges for a while.
I don't know the full timeline of events when it comes to the Outer Rim sieges, because there was so much that was supposed to happen that then didn't happen, and stuff that got retconned, so it's very difficult to put that all into motion just because of everything that happened with the early cancellation of the Clone Wars.
Even like TCW itself kind of throws the Legends timeline of Clone Wars into whack. Because TCW is supposed to fit into Legends and new canon, and it doesn't. Because the old Clone Wars multimedia project, a lot of stories were down to the week. As to how precise the timeline was. And TCW just doesn't have that. It's interesting. It's easier to fit the micro series into new canon than it is to fit TCW into Legends.
Yeah, like Anakin, he's gonna have a baby. Oh, everything's gonna turn out great, right? And then he has this dream, kind of like the ones that he used to have about his mother, but now it's about his wife. And it's not good. Anakin is like, all right, I need a Jedi tutoring session. So he goes to Yoda. I don't think Yoda gave Anakin the answers he was looking for. Actually, maybe he was. I think it was the answers maybe that he knew he was going to get, but not what he wanted to hear. Palpatine says, look, Anakin, I would like for you to be my representative on the Jedi Council. They get to the council, and, there's been so many memes in Revenge of the Sith that have been memed to death, but, you're on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master. And Anakin gets upset, which I guess from his perspective, I understand, right? If you're being put on the council and not made a master, like that would kind of send mixed signals, like the Jedi don't clearly trust you to be in this spot, but they're here because they have other ulterior motives in mind.
Yep. The council essentially assigns Anakin off the books to spy on the Chancellor. Probably the worst job they could have given Anakin.
But the reason why they gave it to Anakin is because it's clear that the Chancellor trusts him. So it's like, okay, if there's anybody that we can have on the inside that we can get information from, it's going to be Anakin. Obi-Wan, Windu, and Yoda on the gunship talking about how they don't trust Anakin. He did not take to his new assignment with much enthusiasm, said Obi-Wan.
And Mace is like, it's very dangerous putting them two together. I don't think the boy can handle it. I don't trust him.
And it's like, is he not the chosen one? And Yoda's like, well, the prophecy could have been misread. And Obi-Wan and Windu have this moment like, we could be heading into really dangerous territory here. But Obi-Wan tries to reassure the council, like, no, you know what? It's going to be okay, guys. Like, he won't let me down. He never has. And Yoda just says, I hope you're right, or I hope right you are, as Yoda would say it. Right before Yoda's about to go off to Kashyyyk, because you see a Wookiee there. I'm like, hey, there's a Wookiee. Cool. All right, we're going to Kashyyyk. We're going to go help the Wookiees. That's cool. In the middle of all this eeriness that's going on.
Was he really needed out there? Luminara was already out there.
Unless the siege was that bad. Like, if they did say that it was critical that we send an attack crew there immediately, story-wise, like plot-wise, anyway, it gives Yoda a reason to not be around when it goes down, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I guess we can talk about the opera scene. That's a big part of the movie.
That's pretty much when Palpatine is subtly revealing to Anakin that he's a Sith, and I don't think Anakin gets it at that point. Because he still doesn't realize it until they talk again later. Palpatine tells him that clone intelligence has tracked Grievous to Utau. He tells Sly and Moss and the guards to all leave them so that they can be alone and talk about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, supposedly a Sith legend, even though it only happened 13 years ago.
I was about to say that, only happened like, a decade ago. Yeah. But it's, legend, the tragedy.
The apprentice kills Plagueis in his sleep.
Yeah.
After Plagueis had taught him everything he knew.
Ironic.
He could save others from death, but not himself.
Well, it's funny. He says he taught his apprentice everything he knew, except for the one thing that Anakin was looking to find out more about, and that's the ability to cheat death. So clearly, Palpatine was lying in this scene, as he is wont to do.
Or maybe Plagueis couldn't manipulate death at all, and Palpatine just is completely blowing smoke.
Yeah, until I guess we see more stories with Darth Plagueis, maybe he was just lying.
Yeah, I mean, we know from the Legends Darth Plagueis novel and from the Tenebrous Way, and I think there's a handful of other appearances of Plagueis potentially, but at least from those two, he did have midichlorian manipulation and he was able to do like sciencey stuff with that, but there wasn't evidence of him actually being able to stop other people from dying using that.
Who's gonna go to Utapau to take on General Grievous? And the way that Anakin says this, he's like, the Chancellor has requested, and he has like this slight pause because he's like, oh, this is gonna sound so bad out loud, isn't it? He just knows it. He's like, the Chancellor has requested that I lead the campaign.
Yep.
He just knew. And Windu immediately just complete dickhead Windu. The council will make up his own mind who is to go. Not the Chancellor. And Yoda's like, we need a master who's got more experience. Now, okay, I do have one pushback.
Why Yoda need to throw shade at him like that?
Hold on. I will defend Anakin in one aspect in this particular scene. Anakin was the top general of your army. He was the leader of the 501st. He did so much stuff to help you out during the war. What do you mean a master with more experience? Like, dude, Anakin freaking won so many battles for you during the war. Like, even in the okay, if you want to make the argument that was more animated series, fine, whatever. But the micro series still depicts that Anakin was a war hero.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
He was still the poster child of the war effort.
Yeah,
even in
for
both
sure.
continuities.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will push back on Yoda in that regard. Then we get a scene, Obi-Wan and Anakin walking away. This is the last time that these two characters meet each other or see each other in this state before everything goes down. And they really play it out that way too. Like the way that this whole scene was mapped out where
it's like a farewell.
Anakin says, Obi-Wan, may the Force be with you. And Obi-Wan responds, goodbye, old friend. May the Force be with you. And the way that Obi-Wan said, goodbye, old friend, it's like, well, that makes it imply that that makes it feel like this is the last time they see each other. They're just going off their separate ways. Obi-Wan's going off to do this battle. He's going to come back. They're going to see each other again, right?
Yep.
Well, not really.
No, not really at all.
Obi-Wan, he goes off, he's chatting with Cody, and they're going over this plan about how they're gonna, take on the good general in Grievous. And Obi-Wan's like, all right, well, the burden is for me not to destroy all the droids until you arrive. Like, Commander Cody was always a clone that people always found to be very cool, right? Between, the stuff that we get from him in this movie, because he does play a big, not a big role, let's be honest, but like a smaller side role in this story.
He's like a tertiary character.
But he's cool. Everyone found Cody to be cool. And then the micro series happens and everyone thinks he's cool there. Then there's the Clone Wars.
Kenobi, the siege goes well. With our continued barrage, the shield should be down in 3 months.
They could, it's like, okay, that whole, all right, we got to talk about that scene for a second. Now that we're going down this Cody tangent, him and I always joke about this scene because it's like, all right, we're right on schedule. Like, we're going to get this shield down in 3 months. Within like hours, Obi-Wan and Anakin take this shield down. And when it happens, Cody has no idea that they've done it, by the way. He just knows that the shield is going down. So he's like, oh, all right, all units attack. Let's do this. And so for him, it's like, crap, we're like 3 months ahead of schedule here. I'm going to get like the biggest promotion in the history of the Republic. They did it. Oh, wait a minute. They did it?
Never mind.
Okay, I guess. Goodbye promotion. The one time that someone has the ability to say Master Jedi and it actually be true, he doesn't say it because he says young Jedi, does this Utau leader. Oh no, Caleb, help me out. What's the name of the creature that he rides? Boga, yes. The screams that it makes too. Like, it sounds cool.
I can't mimic it.
No, I can't either. But there's actually, I think, like a Pokemon that they took that scream for, like in the animated show, and they used that scream for him. Like, I know what you guys are doing. But, so anyway, Grievous is talking with the Separatist leaders. I am sending you to the Mustafar system in the Outer Rim. I feel like this is probably the most iconic Star Wars meme besides I Have the High Ground, and ironically, they're both from Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan just jumps down, and I feel like this was meant to merely be a reference to A New Hope, when Obi-Wan takes off his hood and looks at R2 and says, hello there. But they use it here, and it's been like the biggest meme in Star Wars, essentially, which is fantastic.
He jumps down, and he's like, hello there.
And Grievous goes, General Kenobi! Like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. You are a freaking idiot. Everyone kill him.
In the Revenge of the Sith novel, Grievous, in that duel, is striking up to 20 times a second with his sabers, and Obi's able to block and dodge all of them. So even if the droids had been shooting at him, I think he would have been fine.
I thought this scene did everything that it needed to do.
It really sets the stage for Obi-Wan versus Vader because it shows Obi-Wan's mastery of Surisu, the defensive form. And it wasn't that just Obi-Wan was a master of the form. Like, Mace proclaimed him the master of that form.
Yeah, Obi-Wan had that Stonewall defense just nailed down for sure. They're just fighting fisticuffs at this point, which I feel like is really dumb for Obi-Wan because Grievous has just made a metal. There's a moment where Grievous goes for a punch and he just like freaking slaps Obi-Wan's arm away. And I'm like, Obi-Wan, this ain't going well for you, my dude.
Obi-Wan tries to kick him in the shin. Like, why would you do that?
Obi-Wan has proven, if nothing else, it doesn't matter if it's the high ground or if it's the low ground. He is the master of all grounds. He's like, all right, I'm in the low ground, bet. Okay, I've beaten Maul with this. I can beat Grievous with this too. Force pulls the blaster and shoots him in the heart 5 times, which is freaking crazy.
A bit excessive.
But I mean, the first shot didn't kill him. Yeah. So he's like, all right, I gotta do it again. I would say by like shot 3 or 4, he would have had him. But you know what? I guess 5 to seal the deal. I understand.
Yeah, make him explode.
We gotta make him explode. So uncivilized, as Obi-Wan would say. He doesn't like blasters, obviously.
No. But you gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do, for sure. Meanwhile, Anakin, this whole time, like, he's getting worried about Padme. He wants to save her from death.
Worried about Ahsoka. Ahsoka's on Mandalore.
Ahsoka's on Mandalore. We take all things into context here. Anakin goes to Palpatine to give him an update on the Grievous battle.
And that's when Palpatine actually reveals that he's the Sith Lord.
He reveals himself and he's like, wait, you know the dark side? You're the Sith Lord. And it's like, well, it's about time you figured that out, Anakin. Like, come on, man. I feel like the Plagueis scene, if anything, should have given that away.
Yeah, it was quite clear during the opera scene talking about Plagueis, but Anakin's not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
But yet again, neither were the Jedi, and it was very clear, even by Attack of the Clones, how much the dark side of the Force was clouding the vision of the Jedi, which is kind of what the reason why all this was able to happen.
It just shows you how powerful Palpatine was, because like he's been in the Jedi Council chambers before, and nobody knew he was the Sith Lord.
In Attack of the Clones, he was sitting next to all like so
half
many
the Jedi Council.
half the
was in
Jedi
his
Council,
room.
and he's like, Yoda's just sitting there like the dark side clouds everything, and he can't.
Palpatine's just like, yeah.
Yeah, you're damn right. I'm clouding everything. That's right, folks. He basically is like, all right, I'm gonna turn you over to the Jedi Council.
It's like, yeah,
You
do that.
You do that, Anakin. You go ahead and do that. So Anakin's like, all right, Windu, we got a problem. Palpatine is the Sith Lord, and Windu's like, really?
Sith Lord?
A Sith Lord, really? And okay, he's like, all right, you know what? A lot of this is making sense now. We gotta move quickly if the Jedi Order is to survive. Anakin, you stay here. Okay, I think we can spend a good little chunk of time talking about this scene because
Absolutely.
Palpatine, they walk into the room and Palpatine's like, oh, Master Windu, you know.
You're here sooner than expected.
Sooner than expected. I take it that General Grievous has been destroyed. And Windu's like, in the name of the Galactic Senate and of the Republic, you're under arrest, Chancellor. And he's with Kit Fisto, Saesee Tin, and Aegon Kolar. Palpatine then proceeds to,
wrecks everything.
He wrecks everything, and Kolar lets it happen. He just gets stabbed so quickly. Saesee Tin has the opportunity to slice Palpatine's head off right there and then and kills him, but no, instead he just chooses to stand there. Now, for context, I understand that the whole purpose of this scene is like Palpatine is moving so quickly and so fast that no one has the opportunity to see this coming. They talk about this in the Revenge of the Sith novel. I understand this. On screen, it doesn't look good. It's not. It's not at all.
It makes all three Jedi besides Mace really look weak. And I don't think that's what they were going for.
No, not at all.
They were evidently trying to make Palpatine look super strong.
That was the point.
And they did that. But it's just the limits of actual physical people and CGI versus written text.
Yes.
And in like the novelization and the comic adaptation, you can see how fast Palpatine was actually moving. And he projected a dark side confusion haze too.
Yes.
To throw off the Jedi. And he was just able to take out those three super duper fast.
I remember being super sad when Kit Fisto died. Both Jedi, Kolar and Tin, died quickly. I'm like, oh, well, there goes my micro series guy and Saesee Tin. But oh, wait, we still got Kit Fisto here. Kit Fisto, you know, had some presence in the animated series. Go Fisto, you get yourself some. Oh, wait, no, he's already dead too. So now it comes down to Mace and Palpatine. So this is, all right, I don't know if this is my least favorite saber battle ever, but it's definitely one of them between Mace and Palpatine, just the way that
towards the bottom of the list, and it's not because it's a bad duel, it's
no,
because it looks bad on screen.
It just looks bad on screen. The problem was, George Lucas, he saw what Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, and Ray Park were able to do in The Phantom Menace. That wasn't like, I don't think there were really any stunt men required in that. That was just all them and them having great choreography. So George looked at that and went, okay, I need to do that with almost everybody here, because then otherwise people are going to be able to depict that I'm using stunt men and all this stuff. But unfortunately, like, not everybody is Ray Park. Not everybody is Ewan McGregor. You're going to see in a little bit here that Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor are going to have the greatest lightsaber battle that's ever been done. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, not everybody is them, okay? Like
Ian McDermott wasn't that. I mean, he was an old man even at that point.
Ian was a stage actor.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on him, by the way. Like, that's not meant to be a knock at all. But every actor is different. Samuel Jackson, and again, no disrespect to Samuel Jackson, like, he's been in his fair share of movies where he's had fight scenes, but like, the choreography of it just wasn't there. I don't know if this was in the Revenge of the Sith novel or somewhere, but it was just depicted as like two bolts of lightning just flying around the room, because that's how fast they were supposed to be fighting.
Yeah, that's in the Revenge of the Sith novel.
It's
like Anakin is trying to perceive the duel, and he can barely even see them because it's like they're fading in and out of existence. They're going that fast.
But
we don't see that on
we
screen.
didn't see that. We just saw two guys like
slapping
sticks and having weird looks on their faces, which my brother and I would always poke fun at that, like when Palpatine, especially when they're by the window and Palpatine has like this, like that part right before he goes to stab him. But then there's another part of this where it's like, does Palpatine throw the fight? Because right as Windu kicks Palpatine right in the face and he cowers in the corner like a coward, Anakin very conveniently walks into the room at that part of the fight. Palpatine didn't kill Windu. I'm sure Palpatine wanted Windu alive for what he was about to do. To say, though, that Palpatine could have defeated Windu the way that he did the other Jedi, that I don't know about, because Windu is second highest ranked Jedi in the Order. I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and I think Windu did beat Palpatine fair and square in that duel, but I don't think that it would have been impossible for Palpatine to win it either.
No, of course not. But I don't want to. I don't want people to think that, like, oh, he could have just easily defeated him the way that he could have the other Jedi. Yeah. Like, yes, they were council members. Yes, they were highly ranked in the Order. But this is Mace frickin' Windu that we're talking about here. And it's the same with Yoda as well later on. It's so interesting to me because I don't know in too many movies where you see the main character of the movie. I would say Anakin and Obi-Wan are the two main characters of this movie. Very not so often do you see the main character go from the good side to the bad side. And that's exactly what we see here. Palpatine's like, oh, he's attacking poor old me. The Jedi are taking over. I'm too weak. Don't kill me. And Windu's like, I'm going to end this once and for all. And Anakin looks at him like, well, wait a second. He must stand trial. Now, I will admit, when I was a 10-year-old, I did kind of bite at this scene. I kind of bought into Palpatine's lies a little bit, because I'm like, yeah, wait, no, I mean, let's take him prisoner. Let's try to, like, you know, make him stand trial for his crimes, give him justice the right way. Now, did I want Anakin to cut off Windu's hand? No, but I understood where Anakin was coming from. Yeah, it's not the Jedi way.
And Anakin was right, but Mace was also right in saying, like, you know, he has control of the Senate and the courts.
He is dangerous to be kept alive,
and not only, like, politically, but, I mean, he could have just dominated their minds and gotten out of the trial, gotten off scot-free.
Windu was going to go through with it, for right or for wrong. But Palpatine, like Caleb said, had way too much power. I am kind of in agreement in that side of it as well, that he was too dangerous to be kept alive, but I did see it from Anakin's perspective at the time. So Windu's about to go for the final strike. They make it super dramatic, of course, for movie effect, but I'm sure it was all very quick the way that it went down. Back. So he's about to cut him, and Anakin goes for the strike. And he cuts off Windu's hand. The lightsaber goes flying out. He's screaming in pain. And Palpatine has this slight smile on his face right before yelling, "Power!" I have to imagine that when this scene went down in, like, book form or in, like, the way that it was meant to happen, if you notice the shot where Anakin cuts off Windu's arm, and they then go to the shot of, they have the shots of Windu screaming in pain, Palpatine shooting lightning. When they show the wide shot again of Anakin looking at it with Palpatine zapping Windu, Anakin still has his lightsaber on, and he's going through that swinging motion. So that to me said, like, they were in movie form. They wanted to obviously show this moment of, like, oh my gosh, Anakin, what did you just do? Windu's in pain. Like, no, Anakin, why'd you do this? But in real time, it was probably just cut off arm, bam, Windu got zapped with the lightning. Like, everything happened that quick. So then Anakin becomes the apprentice to Sidious. He will now be known as Darth Vader. Yeah, Yoda senses what's going on. I feel bad for Yoda in this scene, because it's like, man, like, this is everything that he knows and loves is about to come crumbling down. Sidious says, so because the council didn't trust you, my young apprentice, it turns out, looks like you're the only Jedi that had no knowledge of this plot to assassinate me.
Which means he's the only one that gets saved from Order 66.
He's the only one that gets saved from Order 66. All other Jedi are going to be terminated. Every single Jedi, including your friend Obi-Wan Kenobi, is now an enemy of the Republic. He says, first, I want you to go to the Jedi Temple. We will catch them off balance. And I remember the first time watching it, I'm like, wait, you're just going to send him to the Jedi Temple alone? Oh, okay, interesting plan, Palps. He says, well, after you've killed all the Jedi in the Temple, go to the Mustafar system and wipe out Viceroy Gunray and the other Separatist leaders. This is a video game done backwards. The Separatist stuff was much easier to do than the Jedi stuff. Yes. This story is told backwards. No, but I understand why Sidious wanted the biggest threat out first. So then we get Anakin marching with an army of clone troopers into the temple, and it's like, oh, that's what Palpatine's got cooked up his sleeve, is the clones were on his side the whole time. In Legends, obviously, the clones were in on the plot the whole time. In newer forms of...
They were controlled by the chip. They both have merits. I know you prefer the chips. I know I prefer the original
Yes.
But we each have our own reasons for that.
But Palpatine starts contacting other clones like Cody, and he says, "The time has come. Execute Order 66." He's like, "It'll be done, my lord." And they start wiping out all the Jedi. Sad stuff, especially as someone who watched a bit of the Clone Wars animated series, like there was Plo Koon.
It's so sad when Plo Koon gets shot
Yeah,
down.
man, like, son of a gun.
It wasn't sad at all when Ki-Adi-Mundi died.
No.
I was happy about that one.
Ayla broke my heart, man.
They kept shooting him on the ground.
I saw that scene and went, Blythe, this woman saved you on 2 separate occasions in Clone Wars Season 1. I can't
probably
believe
many
you
more
right
than
now.
that. I mean,
And probably
we didn't
many
see
more.
all
We
our
didn't see it.
missions.
I just remember, because like I said, I watched a bit of Clone Wars before Revenge of the Sith, so I'm just sitting there like, this man saved your butt so many times, and this is how you treat her. And then Anakin, we see that he's about to kill younglings. They don't actually show it, of course, thankfully. You could make a whole movie on everything that went down in Revenge of the Sith, and in a way, they kind of already are with all the stuff that they're doing with the Kenobi series and Book of Boba Fett.
It would just be awesome. Like, you have Hayden on board to do anything now.
He's so in for it, yeah.
So show all of the Vader versus Jedi stuff in the temple.
And the final boss could be Sindralig.
Yeah, just like in the Revenge of the Sith game.
Yep.
Really, Sindralig should have been on the front lines. I don't think he should have been like the final boss in the temple. I mean, as the battle master of the Order, he should have been like the protector of the temple. He was leader of the guard.
Senator Organa goes from like 0 to 100 in this movie in terms of his importance in this franchise. As time has gone on between like Bad Batch and Tales of the Jedi, my best comparison to him would be Nick Fury. I become the ultimate spy, but I've got like all these moving parts in motion to try and get the galaxy back on track. But this is like pre all of that. And this is like, what's going on here? The clone could have been like, oh, sorry, there was a big buy one, get one cookout at the Jedi tonight. There was a fire. We tried to get our hands on stuff and, you know, there was a fire. It's time for you to go, sir. The store's closed. Get out of here. All of a sudden, a Jedi youngling pops out. Funny enough, actor who plays this youngling is George Lucas's child, for those who don't know that. And of course, because it's George's child, they give this youngling puts up more of a fight than we see anybody else put up, which is insane. And I wanted that youngling to survive too, man. I'm like, come on, we need like some Jedi to survive, but no, I guess really the only youngling that we see get killed on screen is Zet. Obi-Wan eventually gets off Utapau. He steals Grievous's ship, and he gets in contact with Bail, and he says, look, my clones have turned on me, I need help. And Bail says, look, we just rescued Master Yoda, this ambush has happened everywhere, so they meet up, and they're like, okay, we need to go back to the Jedi Temple because there's a retreat. Yeah, there's a retreat signal that's requesting all Jedi to return to the temple. They said that the war is over, and it's like, okay, we need to go back and we need to stop this all from happening. And meanwhile, Anakin is lying to Padme about how the Jedi tried to overthrow the Republic, assassination attempt on the Chancellor.
Is he though? I mean, they did try to.
Oh, they did try to. Yeah, from a certain point of view, they did. Well, okay, he lied about the Jedi trying to overthrow the Republic, but the Windu part about assassinating the Chancellor, I guess you could.
The Jedi Council will have to take control of the
Oh,
Republic.
good point. You're right. To a dark line of thought, this line of to a dark place.
This line of thought will carry.
Yes, you're right.
Care we must take.
You're right. From a certain point of view,
because that's in Clone Wars too.
That is in. That's right.
I'm sorry, citizen.
That. I hate that. R2's sitting there in his ship. We don't know what he's saying, but he's probably sitting there like, help, this dude's become a massive murderer. 3PO, help me, get me out of here. I can't do anything. And 3PO's like, well, he is under a lot of stress, R2. Are you kidding me? I can't do anything, and I'm trapped here, and I need help right now. Anakin goes to Mustafar. Obi-Wan and Yoda go to the temple. A very sad scene where they walk in there and they see all the younglings that are dead and killed not by clones these people were, by a lightsaber it was. Yoda knew full well who it was, but he didn't want to have to say it to Obi-Wan because when they get to that recording room...
He didn't even want Obi-Wan to look at the recordings.
Yeah, he told... Obi-Wan puts out a message telling all surviving Jedi to stay away, which is something that we see in Star Wars Rebels. Yep. Great show, by the way. Yoda and Obi-Wan go to the recordings, and Yoda goes, if into the security recordings you go, only pain will you find. Obi-Wan says, I have to know the truth. He sees the holograms, the Jedi getting killed. Sindralig is in there too. I would say like the part of the movie where the plot of it really becomes clear, and that's where Yoda says, destroy the Sith. We must. The whole plot of the prequel trilogy is supposed to be Anakin getting trained becoming a Jedi, defeating the Sith, and bring balance to the Force.
Yep.
And because Anakin can't do that, because Anakin couldn't do that,
Yoda
we
has
have to do it ourselves, is Yoda's point here. So we have to do what Anakin couldn't. The boy that you trained, gone he is, consumed by Darth Vader. And I love how even in this scene as well, Obi-Wan is getting trained by Yoda. Because he's like, look, I don't know where to look for this guy. How am I supposed to know where the Emperor sent him?
Yep.
Yoda just says, use your feelings. I will say real quickly as well, it is astounding the lack of Padme's role between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. It is night and day, because I mean, most of the stuff that Padme was supposed to be involved with in this movie, with like the delegation of 2000 with like Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, all that stuff got cut from the movie.
Yep.
So that stuff was gone. So really the only stuff that we get with Padme is like her being, no disrespect, a side piece to either Anakin or Obi-Wan's story.
Yep.
But getting into the scene, I really enjoyed this scene between Padme and Obi-Wan, because Padme is obviously like, she's in denial about this whole Anakin has turned to the dark side thing, because
Rightfully so. She's
right,
not gonna
this is
leave her husband to do that.
this is her husband, the father of her soon-to-be children. And Obi-Wan, he's like, look, I need to find this guy. He's become a very great threat, which is his response to, you're going to kill him, aren't you? And I get what Obi-Wan is saying, and he's definitely right. I think I was kind of with Obi-Wan on this as well. He then realizes, okay, you're not going to do this. You're not going to get me to Anakin. So you're going to make a move. And when you do, I'm going to be there. And Obi-Wan sneaks aboard the ship. He hides in a closet or a bathroom, whatever.
I think it was a closet. It's small.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it was a closet, because otherwise, if like Padme had to go to the bathroom, then that wouldn't have gone well. So then they get to Mustafar. Anakin's like super mad at his wife as it is.
And then
he
sees
looks up
Obi-Wan
at the
in
ship
back.
and Obi-Wan, and there's like, oh boy, like you just know this is not gonna end well. And then he just gets so mad. He's like, you liar! You're with him! You brought him here to kill me! And he starts choking his wife.
His pregnant wife.
His pregnant wife. And Obi-Wan's like, let her go, Anakin. And he eventually does, but Obi-Wan looks at him like, this dude is falling off the rail if he did that to the number one person that he cared about.
Yep.
My gosh, I love everything about the final 30 minutes of this movie. I think it was probably more like 45, but Anakin, the whole dialogue here, like, you turned her against me. You have done that yourself. You will not take her from me. Your anger and your lust for power have already done that. Oh, it's all so good. Anakin does this backflip, and they go from 0 to 100, and they're like clashing blades super fast. And as a child, I'm like, whoa, 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 what is happening here? This is crazy. This is so cool.
It is cool.
It is.
That's Duel. And
This fight brings the kid out of me every single time I watch it. I love it so much. Nothing in Star Wars has ever topped it. I don't think anything ever will. Obi-Wan is very much using defense through the majority of this fight. One of the parts that stands out to a lot of fans, and the part where Anakin chokes Obi-Wan, is Obi-Wan is holding Anakin's lightsaber throughout this part of the scene, which is obviously an editing error. But I love the part where like Obi-Wan like kicks him in the back of the head. Anakin does a drop kick. Obi-Wan kicks him in the stomach. Like the professional wrestling fan in me just marks out for that stuff.
There's so many moments in the Duel that are standout moments. I mean, like you said, that scene where they're on the table like, kicking each other, and the editing error with the lightsaber, the Annie-Obi is what they call it when they're twirling all back and forth.
I didn't know that's what it was called. Yeah,
and then they're like force pushing each other, and it's like a force push tug of war. Almost.
We had never seen that on screen before either. That was really the first time. It was like, well, what happens when two people use the Force at the same time?
Then they fall back against the controls, and then Anakin jumps across and slashes the controls, and that's what turns off all the shielding and starts the base falling down, and they have to go to the lava river.
And eventually we get to the point where they're like climbing the part of this tower, and the Battle of the Heroes music starts playing, one of John Williams' greatest musical pieces of all time. The part where Obi-Wan is swinging across, like where he's on like that, I don't know if it was like, must have been some kind of cable or something that was attached to the building, reminded me so much of the Micro series when Anakin's fighting Ventress, and he's like, they're swinging across the vines. And yeah, I thought that was a nice, I don't don't know if that was meant to like mirror that, but it was definitely
it was definitely a nod.
It was definitely a nice touch for sure. It's like, all right, we're getting down to the final bits of this fight. Anakin's like, all right, this is the end for you, my master. So it's like, okay, something crazy is about to go down here. They're fighting on like the platform that's floating through the lava. And then Obi-Wan gets checkmate and gets that thing that everyone talks about. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. You underestimate my power. And Obi-Wan tells him, don't try it.
But
and what is it? He tries it, and he doesn't succeed.
Nope.
There's this then really emotional moment where Obi-Wan tells him, you were the chosen one. It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them. And he gets like really sad and everything. And you were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. Like right before he says, I hate you. And it's like, yeah, this dude is just completely gone. Like he's
gone.
He takes Anakin's lightsaber, which, you know, of course, because we see Luke with that in A New Hope, Obi-Wan gifts it to him. Mm-hmm. And so then there's
My
also...
father wanted you to have this, right before he told me he hated me.
Meanwhile, there's this other part of the movie that's going on with Yoda and Palpatine. And like, I won't go harp on this for too long because I don't think there's as much to talk about with this fight, but I always just find it super funny when like Yoda walks into the room, the guards look at him, and Yoda just pushes them against the wall, and they immediately fall to their death. It's just funny. And then also the part where Yoda pushes Palpatine across the chair is just the funniest thing. Ha ha! I'm in control. The Jedi are no more. I've waited so long for this. Ah! It just falls over his chair.
Hilarious.
At an end, your rule is.
Not short enough it was, coming from one of the shortest guys.
If so powerful you are, why leave? I do.
It's weird that he tried to leave because Sidious kind of wrecks Yoda in the fight.
I do like this fight too between Yoda and Palpatine. I think Yoda was just caught under a lot of pressure. The dark side has never been stronger, as Maul said in the Clone Wars. And I think the one thing I will talk about is that Yoda, he keeps trying to pull out his lightsaber to take on Sidious, even though he's like throwing chairs at him. Yeah. And Yoda eventually gets to a point where he realizes, no, you know what? I don't need this. Let me put this away. And when Palpatine gets arrogant and just throws one chair at him, he's like, all right, I'm just going to twirl this around, put it in a circle, and wha-bam, and throws it back at Sidious. We see Yoda deflect Force lightning in ways that we've never seen anyone else do it.
Yep.
And I feel...
Tutuminous.
So that is an ability that only certain Jedi can learn.
Yes.
I do appreciate that, because I was actually going to talk to you about that and see if that was actually a thing, because if that wasn't, it should be. So very cool. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
and that's something that it's a very difficult, like the ability itself is pretty basic, but it's difficult to get to the highest echelons.
Yeah.
And most users of the ability really only have the ability to deflect blaster fire. Like we see Obi-Wan deflect blaster fire in the micro series, from Dirge, and from destroyers. Mm-hmm. But yeah, most folks don't have the ability to block lightning. Obviously, Yoda does. Sidious does too. Luke in Legends, not in Return of the Jedi, does get that to that level.
Yeah.
The highest level is being able to block lightsabers with your hands. We see the father do it in TCW. We see Satele do it against Malgus in some of the Old Republic trailers.
Yes.
But yeah, lightning and lightsabers are like the top tier of Tutuminous.
Okay. Just real quickly, because this is something you and I will always bring up, but Masamita calling Sidious Master.
Yep.
Very interesting that he would call him that instead of like, yes, my lord, or yes,
he didn't
Chancellor.
say yes, my lord. He didn't say yes, Emperor.
Yeah.
He said yes, Master.
So just something to keep in mind. We can maybe do another video about that someday.
Sure. Darth Wheelock the first, question mark?
So Palpatine gets to Mustafar. Anakin is somehow still alive, that being, I guess just the will of the Force. That's why I think Palpatine knew as well. Like, he wasn't going to try to kill Anakin because ultimately the Force, I don't think, would allow that to happen. So what does he do? He seduces Anakin to strengthen the power of the dark side. Really nice mirroring of, like, husband and wife both being in pain between, like, the pain of Padme going through childbirth and then the pain of Anakin, the surgery. After Padme dies of sadness and Anakin becomes Vader, in the suit.
Anakin gets the suit.
Palpatine's smiling because he's gotten what he wanted. He's got Anakin fully committed to the dark side. In his mind,
enemies are all dead.
By now you must know your father can never be turned from the dark side. That's Palpatine's mindset. My plan has worked. Everything has gone exactly as I planned it. I won. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, Obi-Wan and Yoda are like, we need to keep the children safe. We need to hide them and keep
be separate
from the Sith. We need to split them up. We need to hide them somewhere where the Sith will not sense their presence. Because obviously, in their minds, Anakin was dead.
Yep.
Bail Organa takes the girl because I guess him and his wife had talked of adopting a baby girl.
Yep.
And then
him and his wife were infertile due to an accident that happened many years
really,
prior.
I figured it was something like that, but I actually didn't know the story of that. So, okay, I guess that's something I can definitely look into on my end. Obi-Wan then takes the boy to Tatooine to be with his family. But Yoda says, hold on, before you go, I've got a little bit of training for you. An old friend of yours has returned from another world of the Force, and that person being your old master, Qui-Gon. How to commune with him, I will teach you. I was like, ooh, okay, interesting concept. That was always, like, at the time as well, where I'm like, I wonder if they would ever do something between episodes 3 and 4 where they would ever tackle that story. And they kind of did, so that's pretty cool. We got to a little bit. We scratched the surface. I think there's more surfaces that could be scratched, but we'll see if they ever do a season 2. There's definitely potential for it. So then Obi-Wan takes Luke to...
And it's the same baby. There's not 2 babies.
It is the same baby?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
The babies in the birth scene are CGI, and then the babies that they take to Alderaan and Tatooine is the same baby.
Okay, I guess that would make sense. Obi-Wan takes Luke to Tatooine. Now, for those who don't know, this final scene here was actually filmed in Attack of the Clones, which I always just say, like, George Lucas is a freaking genius because he knew, like, here's my start point of where I want to go, here's where I want to end it. So when you're in this middle part here and it's like, well, you know, we could just film this scene right here on Tatooine so we don't have to go back and film it again later, which would be a huge inconvenience, a lot of money spent, which is just absolutely amazing for me. All you had to do was...
Owen and Bruce actors.
I just had to give Ewan a wig and away we went, which... You know, we're going to save this for a whole nother video because we could go on a whole nother tangent about this, but it's so fascinating to me, the planning that went into, like, you know, the original trilogy and the prequels, and then you look at the sequel trilogy, and whether you like the sequel trilogy, you can like the sequel trilogy, you can hate it, it doesn't matter. There is no denying that there was no planning going into it. They were taking it movie by movie, and it was very clear of that. But again, that's a rant for another time. That is Revenge of the Sith.
That is Revenge of the Sith, and that's why we love it. There's a couple criticisms, of course, like anything, but overall, it's the greatest Star Wars film for sure. Might not be the greatest on-screen Star Wars in total, but it's the best of the films.
I think for me, it's definitely my favorite Star Wars movie, and it actually might be my favorite Star Wars piece of media of all time, honestly.
Yeah,
like
it's up there in top 5, potentially top 3 for me in terms of, like, total Star Wars media. Because as you know, Clone Wars micro series and Knights of the Old Republic 2 are at the very tip top of on-screen Star Wars for me.
I think for me, it's the animated.
Revenge of the Sith.
It's probably animated Clone Wars, Rebels, Revenge of the Sith. They're probably like my top 3.
Yeah,
and they can be interchangeable in any order, but. Yeah, I think you guys will just have to let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this movie. Like Caleb said, with any movie, there are definitely flaws within them. And I feel like we kind of touched on that a little bit. But
mostly just the Mace versus Palpatine.
For sure. And, you know, maybe like a lack of Padme, for better or worse. But I think, you know, when you look at this movie in its entirety, like seeing Anakin go from being this war hero to becoming the apprentice to the main villain of the dark side, to see what Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Bail did in this movie. And I feel like now that I'm thinking about it, we didn't touch on Bail as much, but I assure you, Bail was such a crucial part of this, being able to save both Yoda, getting in contact with Obi-Wan, very much taking a risk in his career to help the Jedi in a time when the Jedi are about to become extinct, essentially. Yeah. So, you know, shout out to him.
Changing his whole life by adopting
a child and changing his whole lifestyle there. Getting to see the tie-ins that tying pieces together between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, getting to see Chewbacca, getting to see little Luke and Leia, getting to see Obi-Wan take Anakin's lightsaber, which is a crucial part of A New Hope, and all these pieces that are finally coming together to close out these 6, you know, at the time, 6 movies that concluded Star Wars, essentially. and all
we get to see the Death Star being built.
We didn't even
CGI
touch on
Tarkin.
that. CGI Tarkin, the Death Star being built. So much went down in this movie. All of the saber duels, the greatest lightsaber duel to ever take place between Obi-Wan and Vader on Mustafar. All good stuff, you guys. So you'll have to let me know in the comments below. Do you guys share opinions on this movie? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And be sure to always, as always, like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.
May the Force ever serve you.
Thanks for coming on, by the way.
Of course.